Everyone, welcome to another VC Wisdom podcast. Today with us, we have Hassine. He is an associate at Flashpoint Venture Capital, and we're going to discuss about a bunch of interesting topics, namely Israel startups, Startup Nation, a debt fund, and a bunch of consultant strategy stuff when it comes to VC. So, welcome to the podcast. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and a bit more about Flashpoint?
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all. And let's start with the Flashpoint. All right. So Flashpoint is an international VC headquartered in London. We have we actually just launched our seventh office in New York. So it's seven offices now. Besides London and New York, we have regional offices in Israel, Riga, Budapest, Warsaw, and one in Cyprus, in Nicosia. And we're investing in startups from Central Eastern Europe, from those regions, Norway, which is also close to those regions in Europe and in Israel. And we've been doing so since 2012. So far, we have backed more than 40 different startups, and my position in the company is in the equity team. Since we have more than one fund, today we have three different investment products. We're investing out of the third equity fund, which is the most, it's the product that we started with, which is basic venture capital fund. And in addition to that, we also have a debt fund where we provide venture lending to startups. And we have a secondary fund where we are buying stakes of founders and other investors that got early on onto the company. And by having those three products, we're able to support companies from, I would say, late seed to approximately late stage. Today, late stage can be a whole bunch of different things, but it's approximately round seed to round C, D, something like that, where we do these secondaries investments. So this is what Flashpoint has been doing, and I joined Flashpoint almost 3 years ago. Before that, I was doing strategy consulting. Started in a small boutique firm that was doing consulting to startups and to investors that are looking to invest into startups and are not institutional. So both sell side and buy side in the tech ecosystem in Israel. I've been doing that for 2 years, and then I joined Ernst & Young, EY, to the transaction advisory services department, and specifically to the strategy team. And I was basically doing the same thing, but for larger companies together with EY. And that was kind of the experience that got me into this business. And well, I like it.
Yeah, it looks like you do. We can see the passion here. So tell us about what you learned as a consultant and why you headed in the VC world.
It's a good question. So I think that there are a bunch of positions that are kind of these are places where usually people want to go to specifically after doing MBA, and it can be either strategy consulting, investment banking, and venture capital. I think that both of them have some similarities, and I did some investment banking, but it's not really my background. So I can be more specific about strategy consulting and the similarity between that and venture capital. And I think that, first of all, about the skills that you're going to use. So I've been doing a lot of commercial due diligences, doing that both in the first consultancy firm that I worked with and also at EY. So understanding doing the market analysis, understanding the market structure, it's something that is very critical for both strategy consulting and venture capital. I think that Just to give one example of that, when we're looking at startups today, it's, I mean, in most of the cases, the solution is going to be unique to some degree, but it's never the only company in the world doing that. We're not living in this world anymore. So every time that you're looking at an exciting startup, there is already some other startups trying to do exactly the same, or at least they have the same kind of pitch. And in most cases, some of these startups have already raised more money than the company that you're actually looking at. So you should understand if the market is going to be the kind of winner takes it all kind of market, and if not, what kind of dynamic you're going to see in this sort of market. So it's not only about doing those basic TAM, total addressable market sizing analysis. It's not only about that, but it's more understanding the structure of the market and the competitive landscape on a deeper level. And I think that this is something that I brought to Flashpoint from my previous experience as a strategy consultant. And I think that besides that, something that is going to sound quite technical, but I've been using Excel sheets and PowerPoints quite heavily as a consultant. And I think that building a financial model to a company is a good skill to have also in venture capital, because not only that we need to find companies and we need to look at their financial models and think if, well, we can play with the assumptions, but eventually we want to figure out if this financial model is solid and we can trust that and the forecast while we're analyzing the company. But also, not only that we invest into startups, but we also need to support them later on. So one of the things that I've been really focusing on as someone that is also joining the board of startup companies once we invest into them, I've been really helping the companies on the budget side, which I could based on my financial experience, and also because of the financial modeling experience that they had to help the company have a better financial model. This helped me to position myself within those boards of these companies as someone that is going to be very meaningful across the room, because once you can help the company build the budget, you can help them to direct the company, because the end result of this financial model is always the KPIs that you want them to look at in like a year, 2 years from today. So I think that this set of tools really helped me as a venture capitalist.
What are examples of hot startups that you've seen lately and startups that have a good founder product market fit?
It's a good question. It's always a question which companies you want to expose. So it's going to be not rude to them, but I think that it's always the best to bring your own portfolio companies. So I'll tell you which is, well, don't tell anyone, but my favorite portfolio company in Flashpoint, which is Gravity as of today. It's a company that we invested in almost a year ago, and it's very close to my heart for a specific reason that I looked at Gravity 2 years ago, and we bid it for the company, and it didn't took our offer, and I was quite devastated from that. I felt that Gravity is the one that got away, but I kept pushing and nagging the founder that we want to lead the next round, and eventually we managed to do that. So we led the round A, and today the company is doing so successfully that they already want to look at raising the round B. Now, as for what the company is doing, they build a platform that helps companies to do collections. So I think that it's agreed that the thing that is going to affect the most the bottom line of companies is their ability to collect the payments from clients. And surprisingly enough, there are many companies that are finding this task very challenging, and you have a lot of overdue payments that you need to chase, and just managing that over Excel sheets, it's such a pain in the ass that companies just leave so much money on the floor. So what Gaviti has been doing is a platform that the genius part behind it is how simple it is, and their ability using the skills of the CTO to connect to almost every financial platform there is out there. So it's going to be super easy, even for large companies, to work with this solution and to see return on investment very fast. So because of that, the company has been doing very well ever since we invested into them. So we are definitely enjoying the ride with this company.
Very cool. Let's talk about Startup Nation. And you mentioned first when we talked last time that the challenge was getting it to Scaleup Nation. So what exactly did you mean by that? And tell us also how the ecosystem is doing at the present moment.
Oh, that is an exciting topic, and I'm not sure if we have the time to cover it from A to Z, but I'll try to give it on the high level. So um, Israel has been called the startup nation for a while, and there is a good reason for that. I told you that we're investing into Central Eastern Europe and Israel. So this is over 20 different countries that we are looking at in those regions and Israel. And from Israel alone, we have more transactions happening each year, more than all the other 20 plus countries combined. So definitely there are a lot of startups in Israel, and this is why Israel got the name. But for a long time, the kind of ecosystem that you would see in Israel is small startups, mostly doing R&D development for some needs. It can be cyber, but not only, but mostly deep tech, and mostly focusing on the tech side of businesses. And then once the technology is solid enough as a business, they would sell the business and do a nice exit. So you have seen for like a decade these sort of exits, and it was nice at the beginning, but then I think that the ecosystem realized that we can do much more than that. And not only that we want to see billion-dollar exits in Israel, we want to see multi-billion-dollar companies growing inside the ecosystem. And I think that this is the main transaction the main trend that you can see in the Israeli ecosystem. Companies that are scaling much faster and not selling too fast. So much more IPOs, much more unicorns. I think that the last statistic was that in 2021, 10% of the global unicorns were coming from Israel. And if you think about the fact that Israel is just a fraction of the global population, then you can see how impressive that is. Today, the average founder is not dreaming of doing $100 million exit that is going to make him a multimillionaire. That's not the Israeli dream anymore. People today, they want to build the next largest unicorn company that is going to go public on NASDAQ. And since we already have some success stories like that, people find it a dream that can be achieved. I think that we have a company in our portfolio, Guesty, that is heading to this direction with $170 million round that they raised just recently. So definitely the company is heading to this direction. At least I hope so.
Yeah, it's very impressive, to say the least. Look, we've had a very short interview. We both have busy schedule, but it's already over. But before we go, maybe one last advice for people that want to head out in the VC world. What advice would you have for them to be a successful VC?
Um, okay, it's a tough one. I think that specifically in 2022, which is post 2021, the markets are much more reasonable, and people are looking at unit economics, and people are looking at um, efficiency metrics. And I think that controlling these sort of metrics and understanding when a company is not just growing, but is growing in a healthy way, I think that this is the right skill to have in 2022.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time today, Oz. Where can people find out
Thank
more
you.
about you and Flashpoint?
Sure. So people can go to our website, flashpointvc.com, and see more about us. If it's a startup, they can apply their deck. And me, I don't know. I'm just LinkedIn. I'm not a public figure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Oz.
Thank you. Bye
Have a
bye.
good day.